Hey, Alpha Females. This is Katie Freeman. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. This week is a special one because I'm going to be interviewing my mother, Debbie. So, welcome the woman, the myth, the legend, Debbie Freeman. Thank you so much for joining me for today's podcast.
Thank you, Katie. I really appreciate being on your podcast, and I'm so proud of you for doing this podcast.
Thanks, Mom. So let's get right into it. Why don't you tell me a bit about your sorority involvement during college?
I went to Cal State Northridge, and the reason that I chose that university was because it was near my parents' house, and I could commute there. It wouldn't be difficult for me to get to classes. I was first generation college student. So it was, navigating new territory that I wasn't sure how to do it. I didn't have a lot of guidance. And although I didn't come from a family of college students, my parents encouraged me to go to college and had planned for me to go to college, and also encouraged me to participate in extracurricular activities. My dad always said, the school is the important thing, but the extracurriculars make it fun. So when I chose Cal State Northridge, I looked into sorority recruitment and participated. And at that time, sorority recruitment was prior to classes starting. So by the time classes started, I was already a new member. So joining a sorority was very exciting for me. And I saw a bunch of women who were vibrant and involved, and I wanted to be part of that. So once I got involved, one of the first offices I held as a new member was the Panhellenic delegate position. And that was rewarding, but I wanted to be more focused on my sorority. So the next year I ran for a chapter relations office. It was the sophomore representative on chapter relations. After that, I ran for the vice president position of chapter relations. And after that, I ran for president and was voted in as president. So that kind of covered the 5 years of my college experience.
And did you live in the house?
I did. We had a small residential house, and local rules allowed only for 5 unrelated people to live in the house at a time. We did have a 3-bedroom, and as president, I was offered to live in the single room. The year before, I shared a room with another sister.
So tell me, what are your favorite collegiate memories?
Well, thinking back several years ago, but thinking back, and I guess maybe chronologically, the new member welcome event. I had just gotten my bid to membership, and I accepted. And the sorority invited us new members and our parents, if they were able to come, to a little reception at the house. Again, the house was very small, so it was out in the paved over parking lot which was the backyard of the house. The sorority women stood in a circle. We were, as new members, invited to join that circle, and then the parents just kind of stood out around that. And the members sang us some of their sorority songs, some of the ones that they sang during recruitment, other songs that they just sang, and it just felt so warm and welcoming. And it was so important for me to have my parents there because they were so supportive of this, and yet it was so foreign to them. not going to college, not being in a sorority, just, working their whole lives. And, to see their pride, the pride in their faces, to see me starting this journey was very, very memorable and very heartwarming. And I love that. Other memories is your father pinned me, and the pinning ceremony was kind of a big deal. The sorority would have, like, if one of our sisters got if they you could get
a couple terms we need to teach them first to be like, what is all this?
So
do you maybe want to go into how maybe you met Dad, and that could be part of the collegiate memories?
Well,
it was at a sorority fraternity mixer.
It was.
So it definitely it definitely fits.
It does. And that's kind of the highlight. Some of the highlights of the sorority, the collegiate experience, were all of the fun social events. And the fun social events were varied. It wasn't just with fraternities, but every semester we would vote to have 2 exchanges. We called them exchanges at the time.
Now they're called socials, just for anybody.
Or maybe mixers.
Or mixers, yeah. I remember when I was going through, it was called socials. So, yeah.
And that's where just our sorority would get together socially with one fraternity. It would typically be at the fraternity house. And it's just an opportunity to get to know the men of that house, for them to get to know, your sorority. And it was mandatory that we would stay 2 hours, because that was considered to be a gracious amount of time and a sufficient amount of time to meet the young men and be sociable. And if you didn't hit it off with anybody, or you didn't feel that comfortable, you only had to stay 2 hours. But that was the commitment, the 2-hour commitment. So at this,
and that's just general good life advice. If you get invited to a party, if you don't at least stay 2 hours, it's kind of rude,
Exactly.
You're just kind of passing through. That's not really staying for a party.
Exactly.
So it's definitely applicable to real life situations. Anyway, continue.
One of the beautiful parts of being in a sorority is it prepares you for real life in so many different ways, including social.
Mm-hmm.
So this one particular exchange, social / mixer, was with your father's fraternity. And that was the night I met him. And needless to say, we hit it off. And as we were dating, he could have given me a lavalier. And a lavalier would have been the letters of his fraternity, and I or other people who are dating somebody might get a lavalier.
Like a necklace pendant, basically.
Thank you. A necklace pendant with the letters of their fraternity. And if a young man gave you his letters, it was kind of exclusively dating.
Mm-hmm.
You were exclusively dating. And if you got lavaliered, as in a verb, you would have a lavalier ceremony. And the lavalier ceremony for us at the time was you got like a basket of flowers, something that you could put a candle in the middle. And we had a particular song that we would all sing, and it would typically be after a meeting. So after a meeting, the flowers would be delivered, or somebody would bring them in, and everyone was excited because they knew something was going to happen. So the ceremony involved the flowers. We would all stand in a circle, and the flowers would be held by someone. The candle was lit, and then the flowers were passed around the circle. They would make one full circle while we all sang that particular song. Then, on the second round, if the girl who got lavaliered on that, again, the second time around, she would blow out the candle, and that meant she got lavaliered.
This is not an engagement.
Not an engagement.
This is just, you got a boyfriend. Congratulations.
Exclusive. exclusively, and he
Oh my gosh. Wild.
exclusively dating, and he wanted to give you his fraternity lavalier.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it went around a second time and the girl blew the candle out, that meant she got pinned.
And pinned.
And pinning is where the young man gives you his fraternity badge. And you get to wear his badge lower and to the left of your badge anytime you're wearing pin clothes.
And what's the difference between getting lavaliered and getting pinned? Like,
So-
these are all terms I never dealt with when I was a collegian. I never saw anybody get pinned or lavaliered.
Oh.
Never.
So pinned is kind of more serious, we're not engaged, it's not engagement, but we are kind of promised pre-engaged to each other. Like, we know this is going to happen. It's just not the right time yet.
Right.
So
We're still in college. We're still figuring it out.
yeah. So I got pinned, and in the 5 years that I was in the sorority, I was the only woman to get pinned.
Wow.
Young men did not give up their pins. Several girls got lavaliered and several girls got engaged. So on the third round, if the girl blew out the candle at the third round, that means she got engaged.
Oh, I see.
That was an engagement. She had an engagement ring.
Okay.
And that did happen a couple of times in my 5 years.
Okay.
And as soon as the girl blew it out, well, everyone came up to her and they were all excited, and it was wonderful. So
yeah. So you had that ceremony for when Dad lavaliered and then pinned you?
No, he only pinned me.
Oh, he only pinned you.
Only pinned me.
Gotcha. So he skipped the lavalier point.
Oh, we skipped the lavalier.
Lavalier schmavalier. Okay, so tell me more about any other collegiate memories that stand out to you.
Yeah. Well, I had the opportunity to attend International Convention, which is a meeting of all of the collegiate and alumni chapters every other year. And there were a couple of things that I remembered about that particular convention. One of the events was they had our past international presidents gathered in a room, and anyone could attend, and you go into the room, and the past international presidents, we called them PIPs for short. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of PIP's story time.
Oh yeah, they still do that. Yeah.
When I went, it was more of an intimate room. It wasn't
really?
like the big, now I've seen how they've changed it through the years. But at the time, it was just a kind of a small conference room.
Interesting. Okay.
And
a conference room?
It was like
that's small.
It was a small conference room.
Very small.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
And the PIPs were on chairs, sitting on comfortable chairs, and anyone else who wanted to attend, I guess they had chairs in the background, but the collegian, and I was a collegian at the time, were expected to sit on the floor, kind of story time in kindergarten. But it was great, because typically these women were older women, maybe in their 60s through 80s, well enough to attend, but they'd been in the sorority for years. And just to hear the stories of their days as a collegian.
Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps right now just remembering that feeling of, again, first gen college, no experience with the sorority, and to be able to be in a room with sisters from all over the country and Canada, making us international. Yeah. And to hear these women who have lived our sorority their entire adult life, and they're still living it, and they've devoted so much of their time. I mean, they just have a wealth of knowledge and experiences, and many of them were very engaging individuals with these entertaining stories. And again, it was kind of the common bond that they were able to communicate with us. That was one of the memories of convention. The other memory I had of convention that I still treasure is So our sorority, probably like many, is divided up into regions. And we had a small, regional get together. But after kind of the little business we had in the room of one of our regional officers, people kind of went back and were doing other things that they wanted to do. And I kind of hung out. And to have the ability and the time and the opportunity to chat with these regional members. They weren't international presidents. They were regional officers that, were closer to us, that lived in our area, that maybe would come to visit our chapter.
But typically these people are well-known sisters in the fraternity. Like, they have done their time. Like, they are, in it for life. And typically they are very well-known in that region.
They were so well known that you knew their names before you knew who they were, because their names were on the new member test. So you had memorized their names, you had memorized how to spell their names, and you passed the test. And then to be able to sit with them at convention, in a hotel room, and chat with them.
It's kind of like you're with a celebrity almost. Like...
a celebrity, but a down-to-earth celebrity who's going to, again, share their collegiate experiences with you. And here you are, relating and kind of picturing yourself in the future as an alumna, and what does that mean for them, and how's that going to mean? What is that going to mean for you?
But if your name is the answer on a question on a test for your sorority, I think you've made it in terms of being active and, being well known within your sorority. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And not a specific event, but the more I think about it, the more I realize that without the sorority, it just took my life in a completely different path. Without the sorority, I can't imagine what my life would be like, because it was a commuter school that I went to.
Yeah.
And I would have driven to classes. I would have gone to classes. I would have studied. I would have worked, because I was working the whole time too. Not full time, just part time. And then I would have gone home. But maybe because it was a commuter campus, it wasn't that easy. Like, people weren't just hanging around, and groups. I would have had to really work hard to find a place. And the sorority made everything I did at university either more successful or more meaningful. With all of the support I had and the encouragement and the rewards I got for getting good grades, for, the leadership opportunities, for learning a little bit more about the social graces, planning big events. It was...
business meetings, what to wear to a business meeting, how Robert's Rules of Order work.
That's so true. That's so true. How to, the importance of writing thank you notes when someone does something kind for you. We had a little thing called Roses and Thorns, and if we had time during our meeting, and we didn't do it every meeting, but every once in a while we would do it, people would pass a little basket and write little things, and you would say, I want to send a rose, to Sister Beth, because she really helped me out this week studying for my test, or my car broke down and she came to get me to make sure I got to today's meeting. And,
But what were the thorns?
Roses
and thorns.
Roses and thorns. Yeah. I think the thorns tended to be like directed to external things. It wasn't like a grieving thing, or it could have been something funny, like, my professor really ticked me off this week.
Oh,
Or
okay.
he gave us a pop quiz that we weren't expecting, and I'm going to send him thorns, whatever.
Okay. That's funny.
Yeah. But that to me is a way to kind of live in the moment and be sure to thank people for, and, recognize them for something positive that has happened to you, even though it might be small. Like, don't be afraid to, here's the great things that can come of recognizing that.
And you never know how that can influence somebody's day. They could be having a really rough day, and that would be the thing to change it for them. So, yeah. So, any other collegiate memories you'd like to mention?
Oh, here's a collegiate memory.
Okay.
And it's kind of because my sorority gave me so many opportunities to be successful and to get exposed not only to the university in many ways, but different clubs. So because I was able to excel academically, I was invited into some of the honor societies, including Order of Omega and Blue Key. And through Blue Key, I was also a vice president for a time.
Okay.
And I think because of my sorority and university involvement, I came to the attention of our dean of students. And this was back in 1984. And we happened to be in Los Angeles. And LA was host to the 1984 Olympics. So the LA Olympic Organizing Committee went to all the the dean of students at all the universities in SoCal, USC, UCLA, Cal State Northridge, and, all the others, and asked them for names of their students that they would recommend to help participate in the ceremonies. My name was on that list for Cal State Northridge. And so I was invited. I got a letter from Mr. Peter Uberoth inviting me to participate in the ceremonies and just to be part of the games for those 2 weeks. And I took advantage of that opportunity, and it was an amazing opportunity. And that was because of the sorority.
What'd you do for the Olympics?
I had a choice of roles. When they interviewed us, they gave us kind of like a little job description of there were 10 or 12 different things I could have done. Well, part of it was, being a trumpeter for the well, I don't play.
You don't play trumpet.
I don't play a trumpet, so whoop, that one's off. And there were some other ones, like a flag bearer. So you had to raise a flag, and I thought, oh, that's too much pressure. I don't want to do that. And one of the jobs was being a medal bearer. And I had been in drill teams, so I figured I knew how to march and I knew how to stand straight and, kind of be in front of a crowd. And so this was, wear a uniform and, hold this pillow on your arms, and they put flowers across your arms, and then they put as many, like 3 or 6 or however many medals on you. I was the tallest of the group, so I held the bronze medals. And during the award ceremony for whatever sport you were assigned to, you would, as the trumpeters were trumpeting and the flag bearers were running the flags up the flagpole, we walked out and held the pillows so that the person could take the medal off of the pillow and put it on the winners, around the winners' necks.
The Olympians.
The Olympian
Yes.
winners' necks. So that was amazing. And then I also got to march in the closing ceremonies.
You got to dance to
Lionel Richie's.
Yeah. All night long.
All night long. And I got to dance with a bunch of fabulous athletes from all over the world. And there were a lot of good-looking people on that.
Oh, I'm sure.
We were there for the fencing and art, for the fencing event. We'd gotten there early, and the men's volleyball team had just won. And of course, we were coming in the back because we were, staff kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we got to go into the media room when they were being interviewed. So that was a very exciting memory too. All because of my sorority.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
And the advantages I took that were offered to me because of the sorority.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, those are great memories. Thank you so much for going over all of your collegiate experiences. Now let's kind of move on to alumni life. So tell me about what your involvement during your alumni life so far has been like, and what are your favorite alumna memories?
Once I graduated college, I joined our local alumni chapter and just was a member for a little while, but got involved with my same chapter as an advisor. I was a new member.
Chapter.
My collegiate chapter.
Okay, so you were involved in your alumni chapter in
as
that same area. So, yeah. And if you can hear our cat in the background, I apologize. Okay, so you were involved in the alumni chapter and then the collegiate chapter, but as an advisor now.
Right.
Okay.
So the collegiate chapter has advisors. You probably mentioned that aspect of sorority life.
Actually, not yet, but I will cover it.
Okay.
I will in a future episode. So tune in.
So the new member class needed an advisor. And interestingly enough, I had never been a part of the new member education, right? I was more chapter relations and Panhellenic and president. So I thought that would be a great way to support the chapter in what they needed. And so on Monday nights, I would drive back to the university and we would have new member meetings. So that was a great experience. I just did that 1 year. And then after that, our alumni chapter needed a president. And so I served as president for 2 years.
Okay.
And then after that, I kind of took a break from the alumni chapter.
From the collegiate chapter?
I took a break from both, actually.
Oh, okay.
I took a break from both because my career was kind of taking off and we were starting.
And how old were you around the time you took a break?
I was probably 29 or 30.
Okay.
And that was about the time I had you. And so between working
things to focus on.
Between working full time and starting a family, it just felt like it was too much for me to do. But I still kept in touch with some of the sisters and got back into my alumni chapter when I was able to make a reconnection. You and I were looking for, we went to like a college information night down at a local.
Wow. So you took like a 15-year break,
16-year
break.
I did. It was
Okay.
quite a break.
Yeah.
We also moved.
Okay.
In that time frame, we
That's
moved.
True.
We moved away from being so close to the collegiate chapter and the kind of the home base of the alumni chapter.
Yeah.
And so we were at a college information night for you, and I happened to see a table that said Panhellenic. So I went over to that table and I introduced myself to the woman standing behind the table. And she was very gracious and she had lots of good information, and she was very upbeat and positive. And I asked her what sorority she was in, or if she was in a sorority. She said, "Oh, yes, I am." And I said, "Oh, I am too." I said, what sorority are you with? And she told me. And I said, "That's my same sorority."
This Kim?
This was
Kim.
My
gosh. What? That's how you got back into it?
Yeah.
No freaking
Yeah,
way.
yeah. So I reconnected with a local alumna, and I said, "Are you involved in any alumni chapter?" And she said, "Yes." And she told me which one. I said, "I used to be part of that chapter too." And so we started swapping names.
That's so funny.
And some of the names that I knew of the women that were involved were still involved. So I got reconnected. And she and I would carpool because we're a little outside of the normal geography for that chapter, alumni chapter. Anyway, so...
That is so crazy to me that it was Kim.
Was
behind the table.
It was Kim.
Yeah, she is happy and upbeat and definitely friendly. So that's so funny that she's like the perfect spokeswoman for sorority life. Anyway, continue.
Yes. So once I got back involved with the local alumni chapter, I was chapter secretary for a while and took notes of the meetings and such. And then after that, I took on another Panhellenic alumni delegate position, and I did that for a little while. And then most recently and currently, I am the treasurer for the chapter. And I've never really been a treasurer, but I am really connecting with the treasurer role. So
you're connecting with it. It speaks to you.
It speaks to me. It's got clearly defined tasks.
It is very clear.
And I'm very frugal, so I'm watching the money.
Thank God, because we need all the help we can get. That's great. So,
yeah. And then, I guess you wanted me to talk about some favorite alumni
tell me about
memories.
Any favorite alumni memories that stand out to you.
Yeah. Well, attending convention is great.
It's always a good time.
It's always
exhausting, but it's always a good time. You don't sleep much. There's no sleep at convention, but you sleep afterwards, and you're able to, reminisce on all the fun memories you made. But yeah, go ahead. Tell me about conventions you've been to.
Well, the one I went to, it happened to be in Florida, and I was representing the alumni chapter. I was a new alumna, and our collegiate chapter won an award, and it won it for one of the years that I was president. Okay. So I felt very honored to be able. I didn't represent the collegiate chapter. No. Younger women did, but just to be there when our chapter, be there when our chapter was recognized, and know that at least half the work I did went into that winning that chapter award. So that was neat. I also got to do some Founders Day planning. Initially with under a different president. And then under you.
Yes.
As the most recent Founders Day event.
About 10 years difference between the other president doing it and then when I did it. Maybe more like 12 years, actually. But anyway, yeah. Yeah,
but being able to be part of hosting such a big event and being able to make it a success is, it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding. We're not a huge chapter, but in both cases, we kind of come together, we delegate duties, and all roll up our sleeves and come together and, just kind of get to bask in the day, knowing that we're honoring our founders, we're all coming together as sisters, and we happen to host that.
Yeah. And Founders Day brings in women from all the collegiate chapters in the area. In this case, it would be Southern California area. So it was like San Diego, Long Beach, other universities in that SoCal area, and then same with the alumni chapters. So it draws a decent amount of people. I mean, at one point, I think it was drawing almost 500. We were lucky to get 250 at the event that I organized. But, it's post-COVID, and I think sorority life is going on a kind of downward turn at the moment, but it goes through cycles like this. It'll get really popular, and then it'll become less popular, and then real popular, and then not.
And in one of those cycles of growing popularity as an alumna, I had the opportunity and was invited to be the installation chairman for a brand new chapter. Cal Poly SLO is kind of like in the middle of Central Valley. Us SoCal people were more involved in the installation ceremony. And again, it was a huge event. A lot of people attended. It was installing a brand new chapter that had never been there before.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of local alumni support, but they needed somebody to organize the installation. And we had somebody from international headquarters, come to visit and actually perform the ritual installation.
Wow.
And there were programs to be had. I organized the programs, the physical program and the actual event kind of agenda of the day.
Yeah. And parents were there and all that.
Families were there.
Wow.
And all the new sisters who were just initiated.
Yeah.
Right.
And just the local alumni.
Exactly.
That's a big event.
Yeah, we had a lot of flowers to get and arrange and get things decorated. And there were a lot of people that came together, and it was a beautiful day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, one of my favorite alumni memories is being able to take you to convention
in Chicago.
That
was a good time.
And because neither of us were chapter representatives at the time.
We just got to go have fun.
We just went for all the fun. And we were able to connect with some other sisters, one of which was the chapter advisor, who was your chapter advisor.
Yeah.
When you were an initiate. And we organized a condo with her, and so we roomed with fun people, and we commuted, from hotel to the other hotel for the events with fun people, and it was really special because we got to go to the ritual and the candle lighting ceremonies, and again, all the fun stuff, the banquets, and we got to see some of Chicago because we were off having fun.
Oh, yeah, no, totally. I mean, it was a great time. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
So one of the more sacred aspects of being in a sorority is the act of ritual. It is a monthly ceremony that sisters partake in. It basically helps ground us, remind us why we're there. It kind of reinforces the values of the sorority. Typically, the ritual is closed to the public because it is supposed to be secret. So, since it is such a unifying experience, Mom, why don't you tell me a bit about your favorite ritual experiences?
So, some of the most special moments I've had being in a sorority are related to ritual. Because we're in the same sorority, I was able to be at your initiation, which is the first time that ritual is revealed to new members. And I remember you were very nervous that day and leading up to it, as most new members are. But I do recall that you figured if I was there and I knew our ritual, it wouldn't be anything bad. So I think that helped you get through the nervousness of the day. But it was so special to be there when you were initiated. I too was nervous when I was a new member being initiated, but my collegiate chapter president who initiated me had taken the time to memorize ritual so that when she initiated me in my new member class, she looked into each of our faces, not down at any written words. So that just made such an impact on me. I remember it to this day, and I told myself as a collegiate that if I ever was chosen as president, that I would make it my goal to memorize ritual. And I did. And I know some of the members that I initiated years later have made comments to me thanking me for that it made such an impact on them as well. And then another important ritual moment was when you, your grandma, your aunt, and I all traveled to Arizona to be at your cousin's initiation. It was so moving and so joyous for us to have the 3 generations there all sharing our special sorority ritual together.
Okay, so thank you so much for taking me through that journey of collegiate and alumni memories. Now let's move on to any advice you can offer. So let's start with collegians.
Well, I guess I'd start with the basics.
Okay.
Keep your grades up.
Yeah.
Because if you don't keep your grades up, you can't stay in the sorority.
That's very true.
They won't have you.
There's a minimum GPA requirement for most every sorority. So this is very, very standard.
Very foundational, because all sororities know that grades are important and you are there at university to get a degree.
Yep.
And the sororities want to support you in that. So keep your grades up. That'd be my first. If there's anyone out there that isn't already yet in a sorority, I would say consider the financial responsibilities before you join, just because you don't want an added burden on yourself through your collegiate years. And, just like college isn't for everybody, sorority isn't for everybody. And if you don't have family support or you don't have financial support to do that, maybe it's not for you. And, hopefully it is. Hopefully it is, because everybody needs support. And, the benefits of sorority, to me, outweigh the cost. The other, so if you're already in, my advice to any collegiate member is get involved. And involvement can be on so many different levels. It doesn't have to be just an officer. There's so many committees that a young woman can participate in. And there's so many different ways to get fulfillment in that. You could be an alumni relations committee. You could be on a homecoming committee. You could be on social committee. You could be on something like chapter relations or something more focused on philanthropy or, there's just so much out there. I think it helps to connect you and exposes you to new situations and new experiences and new people. And that's what kind of the benefit of being in sorority is, that exposure. College exposes you a lot, and sorority exposes you even more to all of those opportunities. I think you get to learn about yourself.
Yeah.
You get to learn about your strengths and areas where you need to get stronger. So ultimately, at the end of the day, get involved.
Yeah.
And the sorority might even lead you into other things, student government, or other honor societies, or other clubs on campus that are kind of ancillary or sitting next to Greek life and sorority.
My first long-term job that lasted over 2 years was, I found it actually through a sorority sister. She had posted about it in our Facebook sorority group, and I replied, and she said, I want to give, special attention to any sisters who apply to this because it's my mom's company and I want it to be, I want these jobs to be filled by people that are responsible and capable. And so, yeah, I got my first, I feel like, solid long-term job because of sorority. So
you never know what doors
you
are
never know
open for you.
You never know.
And the doors are there.
Yeah.
The other bit of advice I would have for collegians is realize that your sorority is not just for your college years. Your sorority, no matter which one it is is there for you for your lifetime. And again, it can enrich your life and bring you more shared joy and experiences and interaction with people even after you leave college.
Yeah. And if you move to a new city, usually there's an alumni chapter either near the state capital of wherever you end up living, or any major hubs typically have alumni chapters. So it can be definitely a nice home base for you to feel like you have a sisterhood, like a safety net for wherever you end up, kind of. It's just nice to have that network. I feel like when you're going to somewhere you've never lived there before, you don't know anybody, it's nice to have that.
Agreed.
Yeah. So moving on to alumni life, what bits of advice would you offer somebody who was just initiated into alumni status, or has been an alum for 10 years and is maybe thinking about getting back into it, or somebody whose kids are now off to college and they're kind of bored and wanting to get back involved again? What bits of advice would you give to those people?
I would say contact your local alumni chapter. And
how would you get that information? Just online?
Yes, by looking up your sorority online. There usually is a list of alumni,
a chapter locator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you can easily get the link to your local chapter and reach out that way.
Yeah.
Again, I think, so for me, I took this significant break, but got back into it. And I'm so glad I did. I mean, I have a special bonus, right? Because my eldest daughter happens to be in the same sorority.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get to share this together. It's a kind of a family affair for us, right? Because your grandmother and your aunt and your cousin.
Oh, yeah. I covered all that in episode 1. So go back and listen to that if you haven't already listened.
But your sister happens to be a sorority woman from a different sorority. So
we're a Panhellenic family.
Thankfully. So, get involved through your local alumni chapter. You can support the local collegiate chapter. You can do that just, it might just be making them lunch during recruitment. It might be supporting the local chapter as an advisor if they need it.
Yeah, it's really up to you how involved you want to get. And don't discount a little bit of help. They will usually take help when they can get it.
I would also say look up to see if you can attend any Founders Day celebrations. They're usually held once a year. And again, it's a great way to connect with sisters and kind of celebrate your sorority and its founding, and just spend an afternoon once a year kind of basking in that sorority's joy.
Yeah.
And then I think my biggest advice for as an alumni is to encourage your family members to go Greek. And that might be your children. It might be your nieces and nephews, but just go Greek. That can't be stressed enough. It was my mantra for my little family, and it worked.
Clearly it did.
And we're all happier and better for it.
Yeah. Becky loved her experience. She'll be a future interview for this podcast as well. So somewhere down the line, we'll get to that. So let's kind of summarize everything. What does being in your sorority mean to you?
I don't know what my life would be without it, because the sorority I joined as a 17.
17.
I was 17. I was a
17.
17-year-old freshman. And I pledged at 17, and it just has kind of taken me on a lifelong journey. It hasn't been, completely continuous, but I knew it was there for me.
Yeah.
And I felt that it really made my collegiate experience so successful. I ended up getting a 4.0 2 semesters of my college experience. I graduated with honors. I was very proud of that collegiate experience. And it gave me the opportunity for leadership. And I feel like everything I learned in the sorority, I have applied in my career 100%, or in my personal life, or just life in general. So I feel like I owe my sorority so much.
Yeah.
I do feel, I know in a previous episode you talked about you're always wearing your letters.
Yeah, my mom's an avid listener, and so should you. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. Shameless plug. Yes, you are always wearing your letters.
And I feel like I always am wearing my letters, even they may not be visible, but they're in my heart.
Yeah.
The sorority just can be there for you your whole life with the collegiate experience, which is so brief and so vibrant, but so short, relatively speaking. But it's always there because there's always sisters to connect with, and there's always activities to join in and support.
Mom, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope everybody listening got something out of it. If you have any feedback or any questions, you can send them to alphafemalepod@gmail.com. I hope everyone has a great weekend ahead, and I'll see you next time, Alpha Females.